And we are live in Minneapolis following this devastation to the South Minneapolis church community. It is truly heartbreaking out here at Annunciation Catholic Church after shots fired out yesterday during an all-class mass. Now, this time of the year, people are supposed to be celebrating the return to school, the Minnesota State Fair, but instead these kids on the second day of school were praying and had to deal with gunfire as well as losing some of their classmates. It's absolutely heartbreaking. Many people here are describing it as a terrifying tragedy. Now, right now, the scene has calmed down quite a bit since last night. We got here at about 2 o'clock yesterday, and I can tell you the streets were lined with police. They were lined with neighbors looking for answers. A large media presence here as well. But right now, all that is left is those flowers, those candles, people walking up to pay their respects and just be here for the community during these tough times. Now, let's take a look, though, at the scene Wednesday morning because it was a massive presence out here. Now, the children who died, 2 children died. They were just 8 and 10 years old. Absolutely heartbreaking. At this hour, Minneapolis police chief says the 13 victims who are still in the hospital are expected to survive. Of course, 17 others were hurt in this shooting, but they do say all are expected to survive. Now, this all happened around 8:30 Wednesday morning. Kids were praying in an all-class mass. That's when a shooter rained shots from outside the church through stained glass windows into the church while students and teachers were praying. The suspect also barricaded doors from the outside. Now, the mass shooting at Annunciation Church came shortly after 3 other people were killed in separate shootings across the city, and now the city is reeling from a tragedy that will leave a lasting impact. So take a listen to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey Wednesday morning.
Kids died today. This needs to be about them. This needs to be wrapping our arms around these families with every bit of love that we can possibly show.
Meanwhile, starting Wednesday, police executed at least 4 search warrants to learn more about the shooter, 1 at the church, which is of course the scene of the shooting, and 3 at homes around the Twin Cities connected to the shooter. Yesterday, crews from our sister station, KARE 11, saw police removing evidence from an apartment in the Twin Cities suburb of Richfield, including at least 1 firearm. Now, as police continue their investigation, we are also learning more about the shooter. 23-year-old Robin Westman is who officials are identifying as that shooter. Now, AJ Legault, an investigative reporter with KARE 11, looks a little bit more into who the shooter is and the history with it.
Police say 23-year-old Robin Westman left these videos behind as a manifesto. They're rambling, violent, so much so that KARE 11 has blurred the imagery. There's footage of multiple firearms and ammunition. Words and phrases scrawled across the guns and magazines range from the names of other school shooters to threats against President Trump, along with racial slurs towards the Black and Jewish communities, and expressed hostility towards religion. In all, a lot of hate. The killer kept diaries, 2 notebooks, written in a conglomeration of the Russian Cyrillic alphabet and English. KARE 11's producer, MJ, speaks Russian and spent hours decoding parts of the diary.
So what this person did is took Russian alphabet letters and used them to write out the words in English. What I'm doing is translating these words letter by letter and based on a sound, trying to figure out what did he actually mean.
The translation reveals dated entries. On May 23rd, Robin describes an obsession with mass shootings, specifically school shootings that date back to 7th grade, and how talking about it scared other children and was reported to adults. A source close to Annunciation School tells KARE 11 in the year Robin went there were consistent disciplinary issues. The diaries contain a hand-drawn sketch showing what appears to be the layout of the church. KARE 11 has translated the caption, "Annunciation from Memory."
And that was AJ Legault with the story right there. But now turning to the community, because the community is really showing their heart and their power throughout this entire tragedy. Now, I can tell you, I'm from a suburb of the Twin Cities. I grew up at a Catholic school in the Twin Cities, and I remember these all-class masses. It is heartbreaking to think of what these kids had to go through. They were just going to school to pray, and now they're going to be left with trauma for, honestly, the rest of their lives. So it's absolutely heartbreaking. But I think we are really starting to see the people evolve, at least in the community. It started off with a lot of panic, but now we're seeing it to just show the power of community. I mentioned that there are just flowers and candles lining various spots around the church. People are coming to just pray at the church, just to show their respects and be here for one another. Just give each other a hug, because that's really going such a long way at this point. Now, Wednesday night, there were community vigils all across this city out here. So on Wednesday night, one vigil took place at Lyndhurst Park. That's just a few minutes from where the shooting happened. Now, hundreds of people gathered at the Sunset. That vigil was organized by Moms Demand Action. Leaders and lawmakers were among those speaking, including Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. One woman says she's seen a lot of gun violence in her career as a nurse, but this one hits hard.
So I know of all the tragedies happening all over the world, and it's just sad. It's just really sad, and it takes on a different perspective when it hits your own community, like it did today.
Now, the mass shooting in Minneapolis is ever evolving. We talk about a lot of questions that people are still looking for answers for. We will be staying on top of this, as well as all of our sister stations in the community. So be sure to stay with our coverage over on We Are Iowa Plus. You can download that for your TV and watch for free. Now, you guys, I got out here at about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon, right around when that second press conference was happening. And I can tell you the mood has stayed pretty much the same. Heartbreak. People are terrified, don't know what comes next, but we have really started to see the shift of people coming together to be here for one another and just keeping one another at the center of this entire tragedy. So a lot of developing stories still to come out of this, a lot of answers that we are still looking for, but we'll make sure to stay on top of it. So for now, let's send it back to you guys in the studio.